Hello everyone, welcome to the Al-Razta channel. So today we're going to tell spoilers for episode 164 in the SwallowedStar series based on the novel story. Remember, this is just a novel version. If there are differences in the story in the series, please understand guys. Okay, instead of being curious, let's watch the video until it's finished. The scene shifts to a luxurious restaurant in the kingdom of Qianwu. A dark, red-skinned man with short green hair enters the main hall, making everyone silent because of the pressure of his aura. He is King Donghua, an influential figure respected by many. With his 10 bodyguards following behind him, he walked upstairs without anyone daring to stop him. A restaurant manager even fainted just because of the pressure from his subordinates. On the escalator, a man in a silver robe who was following him asked why King Donghua had come down directly to meet Luofeng, who was considered to be just a little boy. However, the King Donghua just grinned and mentioned one name, that of Luofeng's master, Emperor Zhenyan. That alone was enough to silence the man in the silver robe and make him realize how important this meeting was. In the virtual world, Luofeng was accompanied by his bodyguard, Dylan. When King Donghua arrived, he greeted him with a smile, showing a courage that few others have when facing such a powerful figure. Without further ado, the king got straight to the point. Here, Luofeng needed a large number of insect corpses. Luofeng's request was not a joke. He wanted to buy 10 million World Master insect corpses, an amount that even surprised King Donghua and his subordinates. However, an agreement was reached. With that many corpses, Luofeng could start building the World Master army without significant obstacles. The corpses would later be processed into an army of insects with the help of Irina, the queen of insects on Earth. In this world, building a World Master army is not easy. It requires a large amount of resources. Even 100 Earth-sized Class A metals are not enough to create a single insect at the World Master level. Usually, it takes 1,000 galaxies to give birth to one World Master naturally. With this plan, Luofeng could speed up the process and increase his strength significantly. After the meeting was over, King Donghua left the restaurant with his bodyguards. Luofeng stood upstairs, staring at the crowd below. Dylan, who was standing next to him, was curious about what the insect corpses were for. Calmly, Luofeng replied that it was for himself. High-level insect corpses can last a very long time, even up to 100,000 years if stored properly. Luofeng had thought everything through carefully. If the plan went smoothly, he would control his insect queen and build up tremendous military power. Meanwhile, his long journey continued. After 9 months of leaving the Earth, he arrived at the empire of Black Dragon Mountain and met again with Hong and the Thunder God. Their conversation was casual, discussing each other's journeys over the past 100 years. Hong had apparently joined the core organization of the huge Axe Dojo, something that was very difficult to achieve. It showed how rapidly Hong was developing at the moment. But for Hong, it was just part of his journey to become stronger. After a year and 2 months of traveling, Luofeng finally arrived at Wu Long Starfield, where his new adventure would begin. Wu Long Starfield, recognized as one of the largest landfills in the universe, conceals a hidden treasure trove capable of altering one's destiny. After a long journey of 1 year and 2 months, Luofeng and Dylan finally arrived there in their spaceship. From a distance, they saw a magnificent palace floating in the void, guarded by armed forces and a strict security system. As soon as they landed, the palace doors opened and a man in a silver robe greeted them with a slight smile, ushering them into the main hall, where King Donghua or Tianqiong, the great ruler of Wu Long Starfield, was already waiting. With a hearty laugh, he invited Luofeng to sit down, and without further ado, they immediately discussed the main business, namely, the purchase of 10 million insect corpses at the top World Master level. Such a large amount is not an ordinary transaction. Wu Long Starfield is managed by 5 giant organizations, and every large-scale purchase must pass a strict audit. Luckily for Luofeng, the limit without an audit was 10 million units, just as he wanted. However, the price offered was not a joke, reaching 1 million Yuan. Luofeng's attempt to bargain was immediately rejected outright by King Longjue. Although the price was non-negotiable, there was a slight advantage to be gained. Not all insect corpses were of equal value. Some species are much more valuable, and with careful selection, Luofeng could make more profit from the transaction. As a bonus, King Longjue gave him access to the Wu Long Starfield giant trash mountain, where various relics and low-value items were collected. If he was lucky, Luofeng could find something very valuable among the piles of rubbish and debris. However, unbeknownst to him, this big transaction attracted the attention of the other party. Somewhere in the universe, a secret organization was watching Luofeng's every move. The number 3 appeared in their report. Luofeng was ranked 3rd on the list of the most dangerous geniuses who must be eliminated immediately. The leader of the organization immediately sent an order. Agent 6, who had been hiding in Wu Long Starfield for a long time, had to move immediately. Meanwhile, on an apparently uninhabited asteroid, a green-eyed, scaly-skinned man receives secret orders. After years of hiding, his mission has finally arrived to finish off Luofeng. Failure means death, but success will be a big step for their organization. Without wasting any time, he began to formulate his plan of attack. On the other hand, Luofeng was still enjoying his journey with King Longjue. They entered the deepest region of Wu Long Starfield, where space objects float without gravity. These are the remnants of a centuries-long Great War. King Longjue explained that this area was a former war dump, the size of which was too large for the kingdom of the universe to accommodate. However, because many valuable objects were hidden inside, strict rules were enforced, and immortals were prohibited from entering to prevent large-scale theft. After all the preparations were completed, 2 guides in white robes arrived to accompany Luofeng in his search for the goods. Luofeng stepped in, unaware that in the shadows, the enemy had been waiting for him. Luofeng nodded slowly, then turned to Dylan, who was standing next to him. For more than 2 centuries, Dylan had always been by his side, and they had rarely been apart. This time, he had to stay behind and temporarily not follow Luofeng by his side because of a rule. King Longjue, who saw this, laughed heartily and assured Luofeng that there was no danger to worry about. Wu Long Starfield is an important area with an advanced security system and is guarded by many powerful creatures. If something happens, the system will respond immediately and mobilize the warrior guards to handle the situation. Here, Luofeng finally decided to go further. Before leaving, King Longjue had time to suggest that he visit the mountains of garbage to look for treasure. In history, there was once someone who found ancient shards worth more than 100 million Huan Yuan. Luck is indeed a major factor in this search, but who knows? Maybe Luofeng can get something valuable. After saying goodbye, Luofeng followed 2 men in white robes who were acting as his guides. They took Luofeng to a disc-shaped ship with a diameter of 80 meters, which was the only vehicle allowed to operate within the Wu Long Starfield. Without waiting long, the ship sped away at the speed of light, disappearing into the vast sky. Meanwhile, King Longjue and Dylan could only watch the departure of the ship that Luofeng was on. They speculated on how long it would take Luofeng to return, with estimates ranging from 10 days to half a year. On board the ship, the journey went by quickly. While the journey was brief in the dark universe, it would have taken up to 100 years if they had taken the normal route in the real universe. As soon as they arrived at the location, they got off the ship and were immediately confronted with an extraordinary sight. All around them lay an ocean of insect corpses, countless in number. One of the guides explained that every insect corpse transaction started from that point. Luofeng was asked to show his metal cards, which numbered 200. The 2 men in white robes looked surprised at the number. After verification, they confirmed that the bodies were scattered in various locations. However, they were still within a fairly close distance, so the entire journey would only take about 13 days. They immediately continued their journey, flying at high speed between narrow lanes filled with insect corpses. Luofeng looked carefully around. Most of the insect corpses were already damaged but still had a high value, especially the corpses at the World Master level. As King Longjue said, in one unit there are various levels of corpse strength, which of course affects the selling price. Meanwhile, deep in the Wu Long Starfield surveillance system, A thin man with a black, scaly head was observing the screen in front of him. The security system map displayed the entire area with moving dots indicating activity in the starfield. 3 dots caught his attention, 2 white and 1 red. He immediately identified the red dot as Luofeng. Feeling the time was right, the thin man sprang into action. He got up from his seat and left the surveillance room. On the way, he met a fellow guard, a tall and strong ape-like creature. They had a brief conversation before the thin man continued his mission. He headed for a hidden asteroid, where a silver disc-shaped ship was hidden. He quickly entered the ship and began his journey to the area that Luofeng had come to. On the other hand, inside a large palace in Wu Long Starfield, the thin man arrived at a hall where many other members gathered. He made a request to get a small world ring, which gave the guards a chance to search for treasure in the mountains of trash. The request had been submitted earlier through the virtual universe, so he didn't have to wait long to get it. This small world ring is part of a long-standing tradition. In history, some people have indeed found valuable treasures among mountains of garbage that have been around for trillions of years. Although the chances are very small, this opportunity is still given as entertainment for the guards who lead boring lives in Wu Long Starfield. Each member has one chance in 10,000 years to explore the trash mountain using a small world ring. With the small world ring in his hand, the thin man smiled contentedly. Now it's time to try his luck, and who knows, maybe this time he will find something extraordinary. Meanwhile, in the silent space, the corpses of trillions of insects floated, the remains of a great battle that had once rocked the universe. In the past, they were a formidable force that could devour anything in large quantities. Even warriors at the universe venerable stage had to think twice before facing a wave of insects. Luofeng looked at the scene with great calculation. Of the many corpses, there were about 100,000 that were intact and of high value. If collected properly, he could make a huge profit. He began to select the types of insects that were available, especially the armored ones, because they were very strong in battle. Luofeng's calculations showed that with a small investment, he could create millions of highly resilient armored insect troops. He also continued to check other units to see if there were any higher quality ones. Although not all of them are comparable, the profit gained is still extraordinary compared to buying from a virtual company. In the midst of his busy schedule, a guide in a white robe pointed into the distance. He pointed to a mountain of rubbish containing the remains of a battle. Many treasure hunters tried to find something there. Luofeng was interested but decided to focus on his business first. Meanwhile, a mysterious man named Casey was also in the area. He had a special mission: to kill someone. With a well-thought-out plan, he moved quickly and sabotaged the Wu Long Starfield security system by attaching a small device to one of the monitoring balls. A small explosion occurred, but in the midst of the rubble, it was not immediately suspicious. Luofeng and his team were unaware of what happened until his AI companion Babata reported that the entire monitoring system had suddenly disappeared. He began to suspect, but before he could react, Casey showed his fangs. With one swift attack, he killed 2 of Luofeng's guides in an instant. Casey's terrible mental attack was directed straight at Luofeng. No one should have been able to survive such an attack. However, Luofeng had the unique power of the golden-horned behemoth monster heritage, enabling him to survive. He immediately used the cloud contact vine to counter Casey's whirlwind of blades. As Casey began to panic, Luofeng launched his final attack. An E9 class laser weapon hidden behind the cloud contact vine fired powerful energy at Casey's body. In a matter of seconds, Casey was destroyed, ending a major threat in the middle of an ocean of space debris. Okay guys, that's the spoiler for episode 164 of the SwallowedStar series. And thank you very much for watching until the end. The last word from me, bye.